Hello, and welcome to the Holistic Fitness Podcast, where you'll learn how to get your goals without burning out. I'm your host, Laurie, and this show isn't just about movement and nutrition. You probably already know that exercise and nutrition is important for your mental and physical health and well-being. It's also about stress management, mindset, shedding those limiting beliefs, and working through some of that childhood trauma while you're at it. Today, I'm joined by Jill Charton, who is an Atlanta-based celebrity, executive, and personal trainer, and the founder of iFour.Life, a fitness brand focused on taking 4% of your day, which is just 1 hour, and transforming it into a healthier and more confident you. What sets Jill apart is her background in physical therapy, which allows her to meet you where you're at physically, mentally, and emotionally. Jill's number one goal is to teach the foundation of the functional rotation, then build and progress safely and effectively. Throughout our conversation, we touch on topics like time management, mental health, nutrition, and training. I'm particularly excited to share this conversation with you because Jill is just a bundle of energy. I know vibes is kind of one of those woo-woo words, but she just brings such amazing vibes, partnered with such incredible talent and such incredible knowledge on the subject and really tangible tips. So if you're struggling to get into fitness or feel as though you've got these invisible blockers with regards to fitness, you're definitely going to find this conversation helpful. How are you going this evening, Jill?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm very excited to have you on. You're my first celebrity trainer that has joined the podcast. So very excited.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
There's a celebrity in the house.
I'm not. I just
You just show up to these things.
Yeah, I just show up.
Yeah. I love that. I'm going to start this podcast the same way that I start every podcast. Usually when somebody moves into fitness training, yoga teaching, nutrition, hypnotherapy, whatever it is that you help someone in a specific way, there's usually some sort of backstory. So can you catch me up to date on the context that I would need to know why you help people in the way you do today?
Absolutely. So I actually started in marketing. My degree was in marketing and I started in corporate America. And then transitioning into that, I worked in the music industry. So still working with celebrities, high profile clientele. But at the same time, I saw that there was kind of an interesting shift into where my ultimate desire wanted to go to. And that it didn't happen until my husband actually had shoulder surgery. He had a posterior labral surgery, went with him to physical therapy, and I fell in love with it. It was a matter of, sure, you're helping people in corporate, but at the same time, you're kind of just a number, right? So when I worked in physical therapy, being in sports myself since, the age of 3, right? It was one of those things where I was helping people and I was getting them, I was seeing, first of all, the therapist help all the patients to get better, whether they're an athlete, whether they were geriatric, a kid, high school, or whatever it was. It was just something that was so fulfilling and rewarding about that. So I transitioned, did a 180, moved forward in it, and absolutely learned so much more about the human body from post-therapy side of things. And I saw that there was a really huge need from after, and I don't know if you've had an injury before, if you've been in physical therapy at all.
I did my MCL snowboarding, trying to do tricks I had no business trying to do. Yeah.
Have you been on the board again since?
I have not.
It was that bad.
How bad is that? I will though. I'll get there.
You have to do it. You have to overcome that. So it's one of those things where after, you're talking about your hesitancies, even mentally, like the mental blocks, to where after you get discharged from a physical therapist, they're like, okay, go ahead and go back to your daily routine. There's that mental block to a lot of people, or they don't have the confidence and they're going, I don't want to re-injure myself. I'm afraid to go back on the field or go back in the gym. What do I do? And they kind of baby it, right, until they gain confidence. But I saw that there was this huge need where, coming from discharging the patient from an outpatient facility, I didn't work in inpatient, just outpatient. And then, getting them back onto the field is a huge need. So I started my own personal training business and I've been doing it for almost 13 years now. So absolutely love it. It's great. So
massive congrats.
That's kind of my story.
That's awesome. So do you specialize in post-injury and rehabilitation? What's your kind of specialty?
I do. So I actually did not get my doctorate in PT. I started to, and then I had my first child and my husband is an air traffic controller. So working shift work, it was just really hard to be able to pull on the doctorate. And we didn't have any family here or anything. So, so I ended up basically starting my business as a personal trainer, but I did get a lot of the leads from the physical therapist, outpatient facility that I worked at, but then also just building relationships with registered dietitians, orthopedic surgeons, massage therapists, just kind of my circle, my niche of people that I refer people out to. So it's just a matter of networking, where I think that's super important too, as well. Because I am a huge fan of staying in your lane. So if I am, let's say I have a client that comes in and has celiac disease. Well, I personally don't have an autoimmune disorder. And secondly, I'm not a registered dietitian. So I'm not going to read your lab work. So therefore, I would refer that out. So it's one of those things to where I absolutely love what I do, but it's kind of, I delegate out to as well. So.
For sure. And I think there's a lot of information out there as well, especially on TikTok. And I'm guilty of it too. Like, I definitely provide commentary on stress management and what I know about hormone health. So how do you as a trainer, like, provide the most full service you can, like within your lane?
Absolutely. So every person is different and all their needs are different, whether it's emotionally, physically. And I think that there's a level of trust that needs to first happen. It's not like I've had some clients that come in and just tell me their whole life story, but for the most part, it's one of those things to where that's a gradual, process of where you're, learning to build a trust with each other and everything. So once you kind of gauge as far as, first of all, is this person serious? Because there's a wide spectrum of a little bit of hypochondriacs, personalities to addicts, dealing with that as well. So it's one of those things where, let's say if they are an actor and they are constantly, or they work in corporate America, or they're a surgeon and they're constantly inside and they're deficient in vitamin D because they never see the sun, especially during the winter season. Well, that's something to where I would say, talk to my registered dietitian, or, have a few that I work with. Let's get your lab results. Let's see where you're at. Let's see where your hormone levels are at. And then from there, obviously refer people out. So I personally don't deal with that, but I will say, hey, here's who you need to contact, here's who you need to go see. And then let's get the results. And it's all about taking those baby steps, because a lot of it is, like you were saying, there's so much information online where people will just kind of self-diagnose themselves. And instead of looking actually what's going on inside, I think that's key. So if we can start from the inside out and just work on, hey, what is going on inside my body? And then attack those one by one.
I love that. And that's so straightforward. And I love what you said as well. I would be ADHD if I took if I took all the TikTok seriously. I'm like, is everyone not ADHD according to TikTok? Jeez. I get distracted sometimes.
You have 7 seconds, right? And then for me, I'm like, okay, I'm bored.
Exactly. You've alluded to a few mental health things, like especially like, and I love that you asked me the question, like, have you gotten back on the board? It's like,
yeah.
So I'm really curious, like, what kind of mental blocks do you see as the most common in your field of work?
Are you talking about coming post-therapy?
In fitness, just in fitness in general. Yeah.
So a lot of times people have such a huge, I guess, like their mental block is more or less like they're just trying to find motivation and they don't know where to start. So motivation is key, or they might not have their end goal. And so they're kind of just reaching for all these goals, like saying, oh, I want to look like this, or I want to, and so it's not realistic. And so I think the first step is knowing, I know it's oversaid, but knowing your why, right? It's knowing the end goal is what I like to say. And then working your way back, kind of like an engineer. So it's like, okay, if this is your end goal, I had a client who basically she wanted to be able to walk down. She was obese, but she wanted to be able to walk down her daughter's aisle, right? Or down the aisle. Well, I can't talk. She wanted to walk down her down the aisle onto her daughter's wedding. And her orthopedic surgeon was saying, you need a bilateral hip replacement because you just can't, So she was determined to take those baby steps to really attack her nutrition, to really do the due diligence of putting in the hard work and dedication to where she didn't need to. And like, I love that story just because to see where she came when I first met her and to see her be able to walk down, the aisle and everything for her daughter's wedding was it meant a lot to her daughter too, as well, and to the whole family. So I think it's one of those things where every single person is different with their mental blocks, but I see a lot of people saying they have self-doubt and they're saying, that I want to do it. And then a couple days later, they just lose that motivation. So did I answer your question?
Definitely. Yeah,
I felt like I was all over the place there.
I'm typing away. I'm not going to tell if you can tell, but I'm typing away with all these follow-up questions. How does one get to a powerful end goal like that? Because I think most of us are like, oh, I want to lose weight for this vacation, or I want to like fit into this dress at my high school reunion or whatever. And that's a pretty shallow goal. So how do you get to that end goal?
Right. And it's okay to have that goal, but you know, the times where I hate where people just put it off is they wait until the point of where they have diabetes. They wait until they have a heart condition. They wait until they completely have, you know, an anxiety attack because they don't know how to put time towards themselves and to be able to, you know, just really have the daily discipline. And I know it's hard, but a lot of people have in their mindset. Do you remember like Insanity and P90X? And, you know, when was that? When did that come out? In the 90s? Early 2000s. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
Okay. So it's basically when they had all these like at-home programs to where people were getting injured. And so if there were people who didn't really have any sort of previous, you know, sports, like they weren't in sports or anything, or previous,
right. Yes.
I guess form, like they didn't have a personal trainer that worked with them with form or anything. They got injured because they were just basically following this person on back in the day when there was DVD. Right. And so for me, it's a shame because it's like, okay, well, first of all, it's great to get people off the couch, right? And to get motivated. But at the same time, if you're not listening to your body and if you're just following somebody and you're just doing the rotations over and over again, you will get injured. And so I think that one thing to keep in mind is knowing your body best as well. So a lot of people who came into physical therapy, I constantly would ask them, where are you feeling this? You know, what are you feeling, first of all, and where are you feeling it? And how are you feeling? Is there pain? What type of pain is it? Is it deep? Is it superficial? Do you have any numbing, tingliness? And so I really learned to take those questions and apply it to when I train in, you know, one-on-one setting or even in a group setting. A lot of my clients are probably thinking that I'm like, you know, the Charlie Brown teacher where I'm like, wah, 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 wah. But, you know, super annoying. But I genuinely want my clients to talk back to me because only they know their body, you know? So when I'm working with somebody, it's like, okay, where are you feeling this at? How are you breathing? You know, when are you breathing? That's important too, as well. So I'm always constantly just trying to gauge them and just see like where they're at and how they're feeling. So.
For sure. No, I love that. And it's really a coach's job to extract that, because it's one thing to say, hey, tell me if this hurts here, or tell me if this hurts here, because that's not where you're feeling it, but where you should, in air quotes, be feeling it. But it's also the other side of it is having the courage to speak up. And I feel like a lot of people in the gym environment already feel a sense of anxiety. So you're providing that platform for people to be able to get to know their bodies better, which is really awesome.
Right. And my biggest thing is leave your ego at the door, right? Like this is a non-judgmental zone, because I feel like when you do go to the gym, a lot of people think, oh, people are looking at me. I don't know where to start. It's overwhelming. And honestly, they don't care. They're not looking at you. You know, they might just be like staring at you. Now, there are gyms absolutely where it's a meat market and they're trying to hook up. But, you know, for the most part, a lot of times, you know, people are, you just ask a personal trainer, ask somebody who works there, and more than likely they'd be willing to help out. So
absolutely. Yeah. Most people are friendly in the gym. I think that's another thing where social media doesn't always serve us. Like, yes, some horrible things happen in the gym, but it makes good publicity. That's why it gets all the views online. That's not what happens day to day.
Right.
Definitely. Right. What other things do you think affect people's motivation? You mentioned self-doubt, so and also fear. What else do you think stops people from getting started on their fitness journey?
I think in their mind they have this super huge looming, you know, this negative thought of like where it's like, oh, you know, I need to put in an hour towards the gym, or I need to be able to put an hour of doing burpees and the hard rotations that people are running and sprints and like the things that people don't necessarily, a lot of people don't like, you know. So I think it really kind of goes back to what is your ultimate goal? If it's just to stay mobile, if it's just to move, I think a lot of times people dread going to the gym. And if you are that person, then it's like, okay, let's tap into that a little bit more. You know, why are you fearing that? You know, if then maybe just switch it up. You don't have to go to the gym, like go out on a walk, just do new things, you know, just think about movement versus just training, you know? So I think a lot of times is they have unrealistic goals. And so when you have unrealistic goals, then you're just setting yourself up for failure.
For sure. And I think perfectionism goes into that as well. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, especially like, I know you work with executives as well, especially like if you come from a corporate world, you want to execute. So it's like, what's the best training program I can do? And it's always going to the gym, because with weights, you can progressively overload, or you can go down. Like it's whatever you want. Like lifting weights is amazing, but ultimately you don't need to go into the gym to start having a healthy practice.
Exactly. And it's so funny because some of the CEOs and, VPs I've worked with, it's just hilarious because they probably hate me on the front end. And then once they get to know me, they're kind of like, oh, okay, I see how she rolls. Because my answer is always, it depends. When you ask me a question, I feel like I answer like a lawyer. Like, it just depends, because every human body is different. And so really when I start asking the questions, they're kind of like, oh, wow, I never thought about this, like, how much sleep are you getting? Are you staying hydrated? When are you eating? Excuse me. So it's all those questions that I feel they do matter, and they're important. But I definitely am asking a lot of questions to my clients because it's in the details, and the details matter.
Yes. So. And as an executive, you want the TLDR, the too long didn't read, just like tell me the short story.
Exactly.
That's awesome. How would somebody self-coach? A lot of people listening to this podcast, they're not celebrities, they're not executives. Maybe there's some finance to be able to invest in a coach, but there's so many different coaches as you know, as a fitness trainer. So where should someone start to kind of self-coach to figure out what sort of movement is right for them?
So I think a lot of times for me personally, and everyone is different. I'm an extrovert at heart, but at the same time, if you're an introvert, I get that. I think the first step, so I'll speak to both personalities, right? So extrovert, I think it's great to try different things, like whether you want to go to a CrossFit, whether you want to go to Pure Barre, whether you want to go to, Soul Cycle. There's so many different modalities of training that I think you should try them all and to see what personality that you work with, right? I love boxing. So for me, I absolutely love to just go in and just go at it, right? But then I know for me, I also need kind of the slow twitch muscles as well. So I'll go in and just try yoga, and it's good, right? It's like, I know that my mind and my body needs it all. So if you're an introvert, that might be a little intimidating and super dreadful for certain people. So I feel that, just by going like different things like Aloe Moves or Lululemon, like they have different trainers on studios that, or Peloton even, that you can go in and see, hey, which trainer do I like? Which do I really gel with or like? But also, goes back to your history as well. Have you been in sports before? Have you had any injuries? So if you don't have the range of motions in your articulations, like your wrist or your ankles, you probably shouldn't be putting serious weight if you're going into a CrossFit gym. You probably want to start off with the basics until you get that range of motion so you don't injure yourself and you don't compensate. So it kind of just, again, it depends, right? I'm saying it depends.
I love it though. I love that you're speaking about your personality as well. Like that extroversion and introversion is huge. Like an introvert may be okay with going into the gym, but they want to zone out. They want to put on their big headphones, zone out, like be with themselves and be with their breath. Whereas an extrovert, like they would be so comfortable in that CrossFit space, in that competitive space. Right. And like building. And in fact, if they go to a community where they're not interacted with, it may drain them, So that's such an important thing, like figuring out what energizes you.
Right. And it's interesting too, because I'll do a little bit of both. People are like, okay, well, when do you work out and what do you do? Like it's two questions, And so for me, it's like before my kids get up out of, bed, I have to get them to school. So for me, I'm up at 4:45 in the morning, 4:30, and then I'm hitting the gym, at 5:00. And I know I have a solid hour, but at the same time, if I get a half hour, it's better than nothing. But I will say that sometimes, look, like we're all human, right? We all have mornings where we don't feel like it. And sometimes I'll be like, you know what? I slept like crap. I slept horrible. I just want to go in and just, because I train out of, I have like a gym basically out of like my house. So it's great that I'm super, lucky where I can just go down and train out of the house. And I think that COVID really taught us that too, that we don't need a lot of space, right? We don't need to, we don't have to go to a gym. We can just get a great workout in our own place. It's just, again, goes back to that self-discipline. But I will say that some days, accept where you're at. There's days where if you feel like, you can't push it or you just didn't give it your all, that's absolutely fine. There's days where you're just going to crush it and you're going to feel on top of the world in like beast mode. And that's awesome. Right. But just accepting the fact that even every day you're not going to be, on par and that's okay. You can take all the pre-workout you want, all those double shots of espresso you want, but sometimes it just, might not work.
Are you tired of constantly feeling burnt out while trying to achieve your goals? Do you find yourself struggling to maintain motivation and productivity over long periods of time? I'd like to introduce you to the Goal Getting Journal, the ultimate solution for those of you who want to surpass their goals without burning out. Our journal is designed to help you set achievable goals, track your progress, and maintain a healthy work-life balance. With our journal, you'll discover practical strategies for managing stress, staying motivated, and avoiding burnout, including time blocking, habit stacking, and so much more. You'll also learn how to prioritize your tasks and maximize your productivity so you can get more done in less time. The Goal Getting Journal is perfect for anyone who wants to achieve their goals without sacrificing their mental health and well-being. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a student, or just someone who wants to make any positive change in your life, the Goal Getting Journal can help you stay on track and avoid burnout. And for Holistic Fitness podcast listeners, you can get 20% off your first journal using the code HFPodcast. Go to goalgettingjournal.com and type HF podcast at checkout to get your discount. So what are you waiting for? Order the Goal Getting Journal today and start getting your goals without burning out.
Exactly. And that's the same for a lot of goals, not just fitness. I'm curious, though, with this time management piece, how do you ensure you don't fall off the bandwagon if you skip a day, or on those days where you skip a workout, do you do something else? How does that consistency look like?
So I think consistency is key. And with the 4%, basically that's 1 hour. So 4% out of 1 hour, if you take 24 hours, right? 4% is 1 hour. I really struggled to articulate that. Wow. So the thing is that a lot of people say, well, I don't have an hour out of the day and to even work out or put towards myself. And it's really, when you break it down, you probably do. Maybe you just need to get up a little bit earlier. Maybe you can squeeze in a workout before dinner. And if that's not the case, it's finding your time. And even if an hour isn't going to work, do 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night, or 30 minutes for lunch, right? It's all about movement. And it's all about when you're moving more and when you are just active, you're going to feel so much better. And a lot of times that will tie into nutrition. And so if you can't get your workout, let's say you're traveling, and a lot of people that I work with, right? They're traveling 80% of the time. They're living in a plane or a hotel. So for me, it's if you don't have access to a great gym, even at the hotel that you're staying at, there are different things that you can do in, your room alone. But at the same time, even if you're, let's say you didn't get a workout and you were just back-to-back meetings all day, I think that if you can focus on nutrition is 80% of having a lean physique, in my personal opinion. Yes, hereditary does come into play as well, but I really do think that nutrition is key. So if you can at least control what you put into your mouth, I think that is at least something that you can control versus getting a workout in. So that's what I would kind of recommend.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's at least placing that value in yourself, number one. And I certainly do relate to some of your clients when you are traveling and then you're in back-to-back meetings, but the reality is, unless you're answering emails till 10 p.m., which can also be, when
right.
you do have a big day of traveling. So I definitely relate to that piece, but you can make a choice to prioritize yourself rather than those emails.
Right. And I think that's what it is. Prioritizing yourself, just like what you said, is maybe you just put, you would put a doctor's appointment in your calendar, right? Just put that in for this is your time to, whether it's to meditate, whether it's to work out, whether it's to do some light mobility stretching, whatever it is, then just put that in and respect yourself to do it. Because every time you're choosing not to, you're not valuing yourself. And so I think that if you can really choose to say, I'm going to do this for me, then every single day you're consistent about that. You're actually putting yourself first, and you will become more confident and you will demand respect. But also, like I said, you're going to value yourself more. So
I love that. And it's all those little choices that build the momentum, and motivation. And I'm saying that in air quotes for people that are listening, is built from consistent execution. That's where that new person comes from and where that confidence comes from. You got to be crap at something to be good at it.
Absolutely. And I love seeing that confidence just ooze out of my clients, right? By the first time I've worked with them, and then I just see it and I love it. but I love it. Sometimes I won't even say anything. And I love that they acknowledge it and that they see it themselves, you know? So it's super, it's empowering. It's really cool.
I still have clients from Australia and I see them on social media now, like just crushing it in a group fitness workout. Like one client in particular, I used to go to group workouts with them because they had no confidence to go to them themselves. And now I see them on social media doing like crazy CrossFit style HIIT workouts. And
That's awesome.
Like, well done.
So are you doing them as well and showing them?
No. Oh, well, they can see my content in,
sure.
It's more so the clapping emoji.
Nice.
You did allude to nutrition though, and I agree with you. I actually, the way I kind of put it on the pyramid is like, what can't your body live without the longest? And like, number one, it's sleep. So I think sleep is really important. Then I think hydration is really important. And then it's nutrition, then movement. That's just the way I kind of, it makes sense.
No, I absolutely agree on every single one of those. Yeah, that pillar. That's, yeah. Right on.
Awesome. We're aligned.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I like, you know, as a fitness trainer, like I definitely think nutrition is more important than movement. So I would love to hear your take on like how to fuel your body in the best way possible.
Absolutely. So I think a lot of times speaking on to women, right? And even with men too, as well. I think a lot of times when they're trying to, let's just take the typical scenario of people want to lean out, right? Not even build muscle. Let's just start with leaning out, losing weight. They think about restricting. And so they're like, oh, well, obviously I need to restrict my calories in order to lose weight. And a lot of times I think you're setting yourself up for failure for a lot of times who people have that mindset. If you can think about more, I'm going to add things to my diet or what I'm eating. I hate the word diet, but I'm going to add nutritional things. I'm going to do it for fuel, right? So adding an avocado, like good, healthy fats, adding nuts, adding hemp seeds, adding like whatever, salmon, you know, like fruits and berries, adding things that you might not typically eat and just doing it one at a time. Because the more we try to change, if we're like, oh, I'm going to drink over 100 ounces of water in addition to I'm going to like, you know, do these meals a day and if you're super, super strict and diligent, I guarantee you it's not going to last long. I mean, look at all of the Americans, right? From like New Year's Day, all they want to do is just like work out hard. And then 2 weeks later, I swear the gyms just turn into like bars, right? Like they should transition into that because everybody just eventually starts to kind of lose that motivation. And so I think it ultimately comes down to is, you know, what are your short-term goals and then your long-term goals. So having those both locked down and having the accountability to where you can have your group of support system, I think is huge. So
I love that. Like what you can add to your diet rather than what you can remove. So like if you have like, I don't know, jam on toast every morning, maybe instead of just cutting the jam on toast in half, it would be like have jam on toast with 2 poached eggs. And that seems more achievable. And then eventually maybe you might remove the jam, but at the start, you don't put that mental pressure on yourself to remove it.
Right. Yeah. Listen, I mean, I love food. I love all types of food. And I'm super lucky because I'm not allergic to anything. So I just love food, all types of, you know, ethnic food and everything. So for me, it's a matter of if you tell me not to eat something, the first thing I'm going to do is whether it's wine, whether it's dark chocolate, whether it's, you know, like any type of food at all, I'm going to focus on it and say, I'm not allowed to have that, but I want it, you know, and then I want it more. When realistically, if I just didn't put that on myself, then I would be completely fine without having it. So I don't know. I just think there's tricks of the trade from a psychological, you know, standpoint where I think that we can just, if we shift our mindset a little bit differently, then we could be a little bit more successful in those little daily deposits that will create a long-term, you know, success. Right. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you there. I love bread. That's my thing. So, and I don't remove bread. Yeah. I don't remove cheese either. It's,
you live once. Come on, enjoy life, right?
Exactly. Yes. So. I have a lot of guests though that are allergic. They find throughout their journeys they're allergic to dairy, they're allergic to wheat, and yeah, I'm just such a big fan of bread.
Yeah, and it's all about modifications, right? I mean, it's all about your portion size as well. So, and it's all about if you like bread. I mean, there's different types of bread that are quote unquote healthier than others,
for sure.
But I think listen to your body, you know, and I mean, if if you eat bread and if you feel great, then that's great. Some people feel lethargic. Some people, like you said, have an allergic reaction to it. And at the end of the day, just listen to your body and see how it makes you feel.
For sure.
After you eat
no,
it.
Definitely. I'm really curious about your husband. So he's an air traffic controller. I've been in aviation, and I know that with shift work, with my team that was in shift work, with myself in shift work, it can be a little bit more challenging to have a routine and have a routine that serves you. So I guess from your personal experience, just as a wife of a shift worker, like how do you embody health when you don't have as much control over your circadian rhythm and routine?
So, man, shift work I hate it. I hate it because I saw what it did to him. And yes, I'm going to talk about him and he can, whatever, he'll be fine. But the thing is whether you're in production in the movie industry, the film industry, whether you're a surgeon, and you have to go in and, there's different types of shift work, right? So shift work in general, not just aviation and air traffic, it's hard. It's hard on the body. And if you're working long hours, it's really, really hard. I know for Chris, my husband personally, he would come home and he would have a day shift. So let's say he would work 6 to 2, right? 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's fine, right? But then he would be called in for overtime. And then he would come back and he would have to do, let's say, an overnight shift. And so trying to fit in where you're going to sleep, mind you, we have, we have 2 kids. So, and they're on the younger side. So he was, on shift work. He's not in shift work anymore. He just got out of that, which I'll get into that a little bit later. But it's one of those things where they have the thing that really shook him and really woke him up was because of the Whoop and the Oura Ring. I don't know if you've heard of those too, right? And so, and then now they have like
right now.
Perfect. So, and then was that the Whoop? Is that what you were showing me?
Yeah, it's the Whoop.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I can't wait to hear what you're going to say.
Right. So it's great because I think so it's twofold, right? So I think some people can be so hyper-focused on the numbers that they don't listen to their body. However, for him, I think it was a good awareness because he was in this Whoop group, right? With a whole bunch of guys. And they're like, Chris, dude, you're dying, dude. You have like 15 minutes of REM, and when you're in shift work for 14 years as an air traffic controller, like you're sleepwalking. And so it really took until COVID for him to say, oh my gosh, like I'm legit dying, you can't go on for a long time like that with just 15 minutes of REM and shift work and just you're not present. And so I think for that type of device, like the Whoop, it was awesome because it really made him see, and he's a numbers guy. So it really made him see like, wow, all the other guys, like that aren't controllers even, this is what their numbers are. And then he started to kind of do a little bit more research and see what should I be, getting and what's normal, what should I be aiming towards. And I think that was really the start of where he started to take his mental health and physical health a lot more serious. Physical health is great, but more mental health as far as sleep is his number one priority now, and I think it should be for everyone, because if you think about it with sleep, think about if you, even for moms, right, with newborns, when you're waking up every 2 hours, like to nurse them or to feed them or whatever, it's like you make horrible nutrition decisions most likely for the next day because you're tired and you're just grabbing because you want energy, or you double fisting like double shots of espresso just trying to stay awake and pounding the coffee. So it's a matter of what choices are you making? What type of person are you when you don't get sleep? I know I am not my best self when I don't get sleep. So it's some people can rock on for 4 hours sleep a night, but at the same time it will catch up to you. Maybe not in a few months, but maybe a few years down the road too as well. So I think that sleep is huge. So, and all that to say, how do you work with that? Because sometimes he actually changed his job. So he's still with aviation, but he's working more in management. So he's not in shift work right now. And it took work because I trained a neurologist, and it's one of those things where after we did the sleep study with him, he was like, your numbers are the worst I've ever seen. And so trying to get him back into where he needed to be, it took a solid year for his numbers and everything and his hormones and everything to get back to balance. And so I really think that taking the time to ask the questions as far as, if you are on shift work, how can I eat healthy throughout this? Maybe it's doing a little bit more meal prep and not just going out to eat because, you're just constantly like at work or at home or whatever. So taking the time, at least for Chris, it was his one day off where, I would help and we would meal prep. And so that way he's at least getting nutritional food. even though he's on shift work, and then also taking those little naps if you can. Right. And so literally we would do everything to try to, like, I would take the kids out because we had a newborn and a 2-year-old, and so it's like taking them out to the park so he could sleep. It's just a matter of figuring out what works for your family, right? And in your lifestyle. So I think that, I mean, I don't know if I'm giving any, legit advice, but I would say just listen to your body. And I love maybe trying a device like the Whoop or the Oura Ring. The 8 mattress is also a good one too, as well, that it tells you what your numbers are the next day from your sleep. So, seeing what your HRV is, seeing, what your, like I was saying, the deep sleep in the REM and everything. So yeah, it's good.
No, that is really awesome advice, because I think a lot of people some people feel powerless in their health journey because of external circumstances. And it just goes to show that no matter what your circumstances, yes, if you do shift work, it messes up your circadian rhythm. So yes, there is an additional factor. And hormones. Yes. So there's an additional factor kind of against you there, but that doesn't mean that you can't change your environment in the capacity that you can change it to make different lifestyle choices.
Absolutely. Right.
Which kind of brings us to genetics.
Yes.
So I find that, there's a lot of comparison around, and I've made certain observations as a fitness trainer when it comes to genetics, but I'd love to know your take on the role that genetics plays in fitness and what we do versus don't have control over.
I absolutely love this topic because comparison is huge. It can be I hate it, right? Because it can be, it is a big one, and it's sneaky, right? Because a lot of times people don't think that they're comparing themselves to anyone, but really when you dig deep and you're scrolling and who are you following, or, who are the people that you're surrounding yourself with? Like, who are your top 5? I think no matter what age group, right? Whether in elementary school, middle school, high school, I don't care, mom, like if you're rocking in your 60s, comparison is everywhere. And I think that when you start focusing on yourself from a fitness standpoint, I think that is the number one thing to do. Stop comparing yourself to other people, because you're always setting yourself up for failure. Now, I will say that you can have healthy goals, right? If it is something to where you're like, wow, I want to become more mobile, because I feel like I'm sitting in front of a desk all day with corporate America, and I really want to feel better. Okay, well, that's good if you follow certain people that help truly inspire you to become better and you're getting great education from them. However, when it comes to the point of where you're seeing like, Cirque du Soleil people, and you're seeing people who are just incredibly flexible, and they're basically like, okay, this isn't realistic. But then you're constantly comparing yourself to that. You're just setting yourself up for negative self-talk too, as well. And so I think that who you're surrounding yourself with, your top 5, is super key. It's important. Also, who are you following and where are you getting your information from? On any social media platform, I think that's another huge aspect too. And then I think also just how are you, when you feel kind of little ways of self-doubt or you're unhappy, let's say even when you're training, because I'm only sharing this just because it happens a lot with my clients, to where they'll come in and they'll say, oh, I want to look like how I was in high school. I'm like, but do you really? Because you're like 40. And, like, I don't think that'd be a good look personally. But, so I think like asking, of course I wouldn't respond like that, but it's kind of what goes in my head. But it's more or less just saying, okay, well, why do you want to look like that? And what, focus on, like, instead of what the number says on the scale, let's focus on how your energy level is. How do your clothes fit? How do your rings, like jewelry, how do they fit? And go with that. How are you sleeping? How's your energy with your kids? Like, are you engaging with them? Do you feel like you're more, you can go out and play with them? And so it's those little daily activities that we do on a daily basis that I think should be what we're comparing our energy level to, and like those numbers versus just a number on the scale. There's people who just weigh themselves every morning, it really, I literally have asked my clients, I'm like, either give me your scale or get rid of it or hide it or something. Stop weighing yourself, because it sets them up into such a negative mindset first thing in the morning. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Yeah. So, because then everybody else has to suffer because you're in a negative mood.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Holistic Fitness fam, a quick message from one of our sponsors, NED. As you all know, I recommend good nutrition, movement, and stress management practices before supplementing, so you know what type of supplementation that your body actually needs. For me, I supplement with very few products, but NED is one of them. I'm a type A, high energy, ambitious business girly with massive goals. And sometimes I honestly just need to chill out and relax a bit. I've found that both NED's de-stress and sleep blends fit in with my busy lifestyle and ambitious goals, but I was honestly not a big fan of CBD products before trying NED, mostly because of the culture surrounding weed. I just didn't want something that was going to alter my state of mind so that I became much less of a goal-getter or less ambitious. That was until I learned about full spectrum hemp and their benefits. NED blends are chock full of premium CBD and a full spectrum hemp of active cannabinoids. NED's full spectrum hemp oil nourishes the body's endocannabinoid system to offer functional support for stress, sleep, inflammation, and balance. These products are science-backed, nature-based solutions that offer an alternative to prescription and over-the-counter drugs. All of NED's full spectrum hemp oil is extracted from USDA certified organic hemp plants grown by an independent farmer named Jonathan in Colorado. I'm obviously a big fan, but don't take just my word for it. NED CBD products have over 2,000 five-star reviews, and they work with incredible partners in the medical field like Dr. Caroline Leaf, Dr. Christian Gonzalez, and Dr. Will Cole. NED is providing Holistic Fitness podcast listeners a very special discount. If you'd like to give NED a try, listeners get 15% off NED products with the code LaurieLee, LORILEE. Thanks, NED, for sponsoring the show and offering a natural remedy to bring balance to so many people's well-being. Really random, but you know that Noom app? They say, so I've tried out a whole bunch of different things because I review stuff. So I love reviewing and I'm a content creator in that way. And I did Noom once. And one of the things in their initial training is is weigh yourself every day. And then they do say that. Yes, it's scientifically proven to help you lose weight. But then, you know, my prior experience as a fitness trainer, not that I think pounds on the scale isn't a measurement that people can use, but there are just better measurements out there to use. And 100%. I see it being detrimental to a lot of people. Yes. So I found that that's like an example of conflicting information. I was like, Yes. Yeah. No, I know they do that as well. That's a pretty intense questionnaire that they ask on the front end because I was going over that with one of my clients as well. And for me, it's like, okay, if you're measuring yourself on a scale, you're just getting the weight. Okay. Exactly. It could be water weight. You might have had a ton of sodium the night before. You know, you could have had, there's so many different, you could be on your period. Who knows? Right. I mean, you could be retaining water. It could be anything. So the thing is like, I think the top three metrics to really kind of gauge by would be the DEXA scan or the bod pod or the hydrostatic chamber. I think those three are the top gold standards that could measure everything, right? Especially the DEXA scan. That's like gold standard. It's the top notch. It really measures everything to detail from your body mass index, and you could see your total energy expenditure and everything. So the bod pod, you have to, wear this sexy little swim cap and go with this like spaceship like thing, so they're great. They're all great devices, but at the same time, the goal is consistency. And I think the best way to do it is measure maybe once a month or once every 2 months or once every 3 months, whatever works for you and whatever fits in, your budget and your time. I would say just be consistent. So if you're doing it first thing in the morning, after you go to the bathroom, butt ass naked or, maybe with like compression shorts or whatever it is, then do it. Just be consistent. So it's not this roller coaster and this yo-yo. So I agree with you though. I was quite surprised with the Noom's process with that. So for sure. Yeah. Not saying it's wrong. I was just a bit surprised. And I think another really great measurement, and you kind of alluded to it when you said, when somebody says they want to be in a high school body, you ask why. A lot of it is because of a feeling they had back then or the feeling they think they'll have. So sometimes a really great measurement is how often did you feel good enough? How often?
I love that you just said that.
Energized?
Yes. Yes. I love that. And I literally just got the goosebumps because it's so powerful, because it really is when was a time? Because a lot of times my whole thing is like, what truly brings you joy? And a lot of times people, they don't know. And it's like, okay, well, if you have a hard time defining that, then maybe think about when was the last time you genuinely felt not happy, joyful, right? They're two different things. So it's a matter of like one's a feeling, one's an emotion. So I really think that if you can tap into what truly and genuinely brings you joy and then go back there and do more of that, I think that will bring this sort of like, new awakening, I guess, within, someone to where if they start to do more of those things, they'll become just a better, overall healthier, happier person.
Yes, that you're so right. And that also ties into what we were speaking about at the start of this podcast, of that end goal, that her walking down the aisle with her daughter, that was a feeling she was attached to. That was something emotional she was attached to. That was an experience she was attached to. So once we can tap into what joy is and what gives them that sense of purpose, we can attach not that fitting into the dress for the wedding is a bad goal. There's just other deeper goals that we can get to from that place of joy.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I love that question as far as, what makes you happy or what truly brings you joy. So, or like what brings you energy, if you want to feel energy. So sometimes if clients will say, I just want to feel better, it's like, okay, well, let's dig more into that. What is that? Like define that, because let's unpackage it.
Yeah.
And
what does that look like?
Right. Yeah.
And they say wine.
And I do get that. And it's like, all right, well, I think that's just a temporary fix. So not bashing wine at all.
Yeah, exactly. Don't rid yourself of anything, but probably not the thing that your soul's purpose is here to do.
Right.
I love that. We've spoken about a lot today, Jill. So I want to open it up to you before we move to the final question. Is there anything you really wanted to speak about and share that you didn't get the chance to today?
I just really, really am super passionate and want to share that. I want to encourage everyone that's listening to really genuinely put at least 1 hour, even if it's 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night, but just put that time towards yourself. And I really think that we will become, and that will kind of push them to become better. Sometimes we think, oh, just scrolling and watching Netflix, then it's just like, does that really make you happy? Because really you're just vegging out and you're numbing your brain. You're just being entertained. Is there something that we could do where it might look a little bit different? And not bashing that at all, right? But I'm just saying maybe just write out a list and journal things that really ultimately bring you happiness and joy, and then do them, right? So it's not just working out, it's a lifestyle, right? It's anything and everything. It's just getting outside. Maybe it's, and I really want to encourage to do that, not with a family or not with your best friend or not with, a friend, like doing things that bring you ultimate joy as a person solo without anyone else. So
I love
that's
that.
what I want to encourage.
That's such a good note, just to prioritize yourself in whatever way that looks like to you. But hopefully after this podcast, incorporating movement into that too.
Yes, of course. Of course.
Amazing. Well, we do have a final question. And that final question is, we're fast forwarding a few decades here, or several decades here. Your 70-year-old self. They're here beside you.
Girl, I'm almost 40 right now. Here we go.
Oh, really? Well, move often.
39.
If you're watching the shorts, then move often and you will look fabulous. Yes, your 70-year-old self. What would she say to you right now?
Wait, can you say the question again? Sorry, I interrupted you. So now I'm confused. What would I say? What would my 70-year-old self say to me?
Yeah. What wisdom would she impart on you right now? What do you need to know?
Live life. Seriously, live life. People get so caught up in the day-to-day and they don't take a look at, like, if I was to look at myself and my life from 10,000 feet in the air, life is so valuable and so short and so precious. So I would say, just live life. And I'm huge into like being present, but also, having, your goals, right? So it's kind of a little bit of future, but, present. So I don't know. I would just honestly say live life. And every single person, like when they hear that, they're going to think of different things, like what that means to them. And it's going to mean different things. Right. So, but that's what my 7-year-old self would say. Live life, have fun.
And it's such a great, simple way to put it as well, because I think sometimes day to day we get stuck on these minute details and place so much value on them rather than focusing that like life is so much more than the little detail we're focusing on. We can have fun and we get to enjoy the journey. Yes,
exactly. Yes. And I think like when we think about how grateful we are too, you know, and just with, you know, at least like for me personally, I'm so grateful for my health and the fact that I have that, and make sure my kids know that too. You know, I think it's good. So instilling that, but yeah, that's what I would say.
Well,
what would you say?
To my 7-year-old self, it would definitely be like, stop sweating the small stuff. I have a lot of goals and I'm extremely hard on myself. I juggle a few different things. As you know, I'm an executive for a startup. I've got this podcast. I also sell a goal-getting journal, and I want everything yesterday. So it would be similar in terms of live life, but my live life would be like, don't be so hard on yourself. Everything's going to work out. Just
absolutely let it happen organically.
Yeah, just let it happen rather than forcing it.
Or organically. Right. Exactly. Yeah. No, it's for sure. And I think just like having that mindset too, when you let things happen organically, it's just, it'll fall in your lap when it's supposed to. And I think you have such a great open personality, and, you know, you're very warm and inviting and very friendly. So I think, you know, you'll just be able to, stop being so hard on yourself.
Oh, so you can come on any day, Jill.
I'm serious. Yeah, no, you're such a huge light, you know, and stop being so hard on yourself, dang it.
Yes, I love it. I've got Jill, my 70-year-old self, everyone like, stop being so hard on yourself. No, I really appreciate you. And I'm sure that so many other people have connected with your positive energy and breadth of knowledge as well. So knowledgeable and very holistic as well, with the energy and the different personality styles, and you attack things from different angles. So how can we all get in touch with you and learn more about you?
Well, you can go to social media. It's just my first and last name, pretty much on any social media platform. It's Jill Charton, Charton. It's really Charton, but everybody in America is like Charton. So Jill Charton. Or you could just go to www.ifour.life.com, and it's FOUR. So basically the whole 4%, right? So, but it's just spelled out as 4. So yeah, you can find me there.
Amazing. And I'll definitely have all of those details in the show notes as well. It truly was a pleasure having you, Jill. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great night.
You too. And for everyone listening to the podcast, whether you're in the car, vacuuming the house, whatever you are up to listening to the Holistic Fitness Podcast, eat well, move well, breathe well. And until next time, keep shining.